How do you configure the camera and lens? For the Carlmont High School Sports Leadership class, Nikon D7200. Camera and lens configuration. Please use the YouTube chapter links to go to a chapter. Exposure modes, autofocus, shutter modes, ISO level, both auto and manual, metering, exposure compensation, flash exposure compensation, image playback and screen options, and lens configuration. Exposure modes. Exposure modes. To set it, on the top of the camera, on the left side, there is a dial. That is the exposure mode dial. PSAM stands for Program, Shutter Priority, Aperture Priority, and Manual, PSAM. To set the mode, in the middle of the dial is a button. That's the green diamond in the picture. You press and hold the lock button down. Then rotate the mode dial till your desired mode is opposite the indicator, which is the orange diamond. Note, you have to hold down the lock button. It is not a lock, press and forget. You hold it down, rotate, then release the button. Exposure mode program. This is the P in PSAM. It allows you to select what to focus on. Flash, you select to use or not use the flash. This is what I use instead of auto. Exposure mode shutter priority. You select the shutter speed to use, the camera selects the aperture to use. Best when you want to use a specific shutter speed, such as when shooting sports. For instance, when shooting sports, I set it to 1600. How? Set the mode dial to S. Look at the control panel on the top of the camera to see the shutter speed that you set at, the red square in the middle picture. Adjust the shutter speed by turning the rear command dial. Exposure mode aperture priority. You select the aperture to use. The camera selects the shutter speed to use. Best when you want to use a specific aperture, like wide open for night games. How? Set the mode dial to A. Look at the control panel to see the aperture, the red square in the middle picture. In this case, it shows f8. Adjust the aperture by turning the front command dial. Exposure mode manual. You have full control over the shutter speed and aperture used. Best when lighting conditions are difficult for the camera to correctly meter, as in the two pictures below. Picture left. The light is reflecting off the aluminum bleachers and your camera is going, whoa, too bright. And it closes down the exposure so the players on the field go dark. Picture right. See that black area between the curtain? Camera's going, whoa, too dark. And it says, I need to increase the exposure so the people on the stage get burnt out and go white. So you need to take over and reduce the exposure so you can see their faces. How to set manual. Turn the mode dial to M. Look at the control panel. Adjust the aperture with the front command dial and adjust the shutter speed with the rear command dial. Pause the video. Now you try it on your camera. Autofocus. Autofocus modes, AFS for single, AFC for continuous. Area modes, single point, dynamic, and tracking. Focus mode, AFS single. The camera will not fire until the lens is focused. AFC is continuous. The camera will focus continuously as you are shooting, primarily for burst shooting. Normally, the camera will fire even if the lens is not in focus. The sports leadership cameras have been configured to not fire unless the lens is in focus. We had issues with the 17-50 Gem lens, where the camera was firing, but the lens was not yet in focus for several frames. The autofocus motor in that lens is not fast. Set to AF focus mode. On the top picture, you press the AF mode button on the side of the lens, then turn the rear command dial and read the selected AF mode on the control panel on the top of the camera. Pause the video. Now you try it on your camera. Area modes. Each mode has pros and cons. Single point. There is one focus point. You have to put and hold it on the subject. The camera's not going to search for the subject for you. Dynamic. You first put the AF point on the subject. The camera will track the subject within the zone. Caution. Camera tracking can be fooled. So don't set it to D21 and expect the camera to track it for you. The camera may be confused and you end up tracking the wrong subject. AF area modes, Nikon D7200. Areas are approximate. Single point, as in the top picture, the red square on the girl's nose. Dynamic 9, it's a 3x3 matrix. Second picture down, covering her face. Dynamic 21 is approximately a 5x5 matrix that is covering the girl's head in the third picture down. Dynamic 51 uses all 51 focus points in the red rectangle in the bottom picture. Setting the AF area mode. Press the AF mode button on the front of the camera, as in the top picture. Turn the front command dial, and on the control panel, note the selected AF area mode. In this case, it says Auto. Setting the AF area mode. If you set the focus mode to AFS, the area mode must be single point. Do not use auto area. If you shoot AFC, the selected area mode should be single point, D21 or D9. Do not use D51, 3D, or auto area. Autofocus, single point. For school purposes, shooting many sports and events, single point is the best compromise. Put the single AF point into the center. Then put the AF point on your subject. Know how to recognize where the AF point is. If the AF point is off on the side and you think it's in the center, the camera's going to focus in the wrong place. So you have to know where the AF point is on your camera and know how to move the AF point. Pressing the OK button in the middle of the pad will return the AF point to the center. Move the AF point in the viewfinder. Find the AF point in the viewfinder. Top picture, it's the red square on her nose. Then use the round pad on the back of the camera, which is in the green square on the bottom picture. Use that to move the AF point around, left, right, up, down. Pressing the OK button in the center of the round pad returns the AF point to the center. It's a quick way to return the AF point to the center if it's been moved to the side. Or if you can't figure out where it is, press the OK button and it'll pull it to the center. If the AF point does not move, the pad may be locked. Check the dial indicator on that the dial indicator is on L. On the bottom picture, it's in the red square. If it's on L, move the lever so the indicator is not on the L, as on the picture. Pause the video. Now you try it on your camera. Shutter. Shutter mode. Single shot. Press the shutter and the camera fires one shot. This is great for presentation and student life. All you want is a single shot for each time you press the shutter. Continuous. You press and hold the shutter down. The camera keeps firing until you release the shutter. This is for most sports. Use CH or continuous high to shoot at the fastest speed your camera can. On the Nikon D7200, it is 6 frames per second. Don't bother with CL or continuous low. Select the shutter mode. Your mode dial. At the base of the mode dial is your shutter mode ring. You press and hold the dial lock, which is in the orange circle in the picture. Then rotate the mode dial ring to S for single or CH for continuous high. Shutter speed and autofocus. Autofocus and shutter have to be in sync. If your shutter mode is S for single shot, your autofocus mode should be AFS. If your shutter mode is continuous high, your focus mode should be AFC, continuous. Pause the video. Now you try it on your camera. ISO level. ISO level. What is it? It's the sensitivity of the camera to light. The larger the number, the more sensitive it is to light. But there is no free lunch. The higher the ISO, the lower the image quality. Auto. The camera will select the ISO level. This is the default for the Carlmont Sports Leadership class. Specify is when you select the ISO level to use. To adjust the ISO level manually, turn Auto ISO off and set the ISO level. When you are done, turn the Auto ISO back on again. Very important, or you are going to sabotage the next person to use the camera. To turn Auto ISO on or off, on the back of the camera, press and hold the ISO button as shown in the top picture. Then turn the front command dial. On the back of the camera, the screen, note the Auto ISO setting on the rear screen as shown in the bottom picture. To adjust the ISO level, on the back of the camera, press and hold the ISO button, top picture. At the same time, turn the rear command dial and note the ISO level on the control panel or the rear screen. Pause the video. Now you try it on your camera. Metering. Metering methods. These are the 3 metering methods on the camera. Matrix metering, center weight, and spot. How to set it? On the top of the camera on the right-hand side is your metering mode button in the red circle in the top picture. Turn the rear command dial and note the modes on the control panel as shown in the bottom picture. Pause the video. Now you try it on your camera. Exposure compensation. Adjusting exposure compensation. On the top right side of the camera, as shown in the left picture, you press and hold the plus or minus button. That is the exposure compensation button. While holding that button down, you turn the rear command dial. The control panel will show the exposure compensation value. Plus makes it brighter. Minus makes it darker. Note, after you are done, you must reset the exposure compensation to 0. If you do not, you will be sabotaging the next person to use the camera. They're going to shoot their picture and wonder why their pictures are all dark or all bright. It is because you set the compensation. Pause the video. Now you try it on your camera. Take a picture, adjust the exposure compensation, take the same picture, then review the two pictures. Repeat with different EC adjustments. Flash exposure compensation. How to? With the pop-up flash open, press and hold the flash compensation button. It is on the side of the camera as shown in the top picture. Then turn the front command dial. The flash exposure compensation will show on the control panel and the rear screen as shown on the bottom picture. Like regular exposure compensation, after you are done, you must reset the exposure compensation to 0. Pause the video. Now you try it on your camera. Take a picture with the flash. Adjust the flash exposure compensation. Take the same picture with the flash. Review the two pictures. Repeat with different flash compensation adjustments. Playback. To play back the images you shot, on the back of the camera, the top left-hand corner is the playback button. Press the playback button, then press the right or left side of the round pad to go forwards and backwards. When you are done, press the playback button or half press the shutter to go back to shooting mode. Use the round pad on the back to cycle through the various information screens, up or down, and you will go through the screens as shown on this picture. Pause the video. Now you try it on your camera. Lens configuration. Lens configuration as used by the Carlmont High School Sports Leadership class. We have four lenses. 18-140 general purpose lens. Tamron 17-50 2.8. This is the gym sports lens. Tamron 70-200 2.8. This is our night field sports lens. And the Tamron 18-400 is our baseball and softball lens. Nikon 18-140. AM autofocus manual focus set to A so the lens will autofocus. VR on off, which is the vibration reduction, set it to on. Tamron 17-50 2.8. AF/M switch, set it to AF so the camera will focus the lens. Zoom lock. You unlock it by pushing it forward. If you want to lock it, set the lens to 17 millimeters, then push the switch back towards the camera. If the lens won't zoom, it's probably because the lens is locked. You need to unlock it. Tamron 70-200. Switches on the camera starting from right to left. Full infinity to 3 meter focus limiter. Set to infinity to 3 meter. If you need to focus closer than 10 feet, then set it to full. Most of the time, you will not need to go under 10 feet, so just leave it in the infinity to 3 meter position. AF/MF switch, autofocus manual focus. Set it to AF so the camera will focus the lens. If it's an MF, the camera will not focus the lens and it will just sit there. Next switch over, VC on. Vibration compensation. This is your image stabilization. Set to VC on. VC mode 1, 2, 3. This is the vibration compensation mode selection. Set to 1 for stationary subjects such as a presentation. Set it to 2 for sports where you're tracking a moving subject like football. Mode 2 is your standard setting for sports. Tamron 18-400, only 2 switches on this lens. VC on or off, set it to VC on. AF-MF, set it to AF. If you set it to MF, like the other lenses, the lens will not focus for you. The end. Please like and subscribe.